Welcome back to the Plant Power Podcast. My name is Ian Beckles. Hopefully you guys and gals are having a wonderful week. And I started off this podcast way back when, I just trying to get everybody exposed to things that come from our earth that help us. And that's where Plant Power came from. And I've told you guys that I've become vegan. I've been vegan since the beginning of December. It's doing wonderful things for me. I feel great. I feel better. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel better when I walk around. You feel lighter, and it just your existence is just a little bit better. So I'm not pushing anybody to do anything. I would say to listen to your doctors and do what your doctors tell you to do. And I listen to people, and people say that eating vegan is good for you. So I tried it out, and it certainly is working for me. Now, I'm here at the Dignitary Tea and Kava House, and I usually cooked outside of my Big Green Eggs, and I don't cook much anymore because I'm not eating a lot of meat, unfortunately. So what I'm doing is I'm eating out for 80% of the time, so I'm really getting hip to a lot of the cool vegan restaurants around the area. I live here in South Tampa, right here on Gandy and West Shore, and the fortunate part is there's a lot of vegan restaurants popping up everywhere in the Bay Area, but this one in particular, I drive all the way to Lutz once a week to go check it out, and that's Revelations. And I brought the owner, Robby Graham, here. How you doing, Robby? How you doing, brother?
I'm truly blessed. Thanks for having me on, Ian. Appreciate it.
It's good to have you here. Now, I got a chance to know you a little bit. We sat down after I ate at your restaurant. You came and introduced yourself to me, and we have some people in common that we know. And then I started to talk to you a little bit about your story, and your story is fantastic. I mean, I don't have a great story. My story is I'm getting old and I want to live longer, and that's why I started to become vegan. So now your story is it's got a little more legs than that. Can you go back from day one? How did you become a vegan, and why did you become vegan? It's an unbelievable story.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I was a homeless guy about 9 years ago, and came to the end of myself, and ended up on this journey where I started walking by faith and not by sight. And I ended up meeting my wife today, Mia, and we got into this amazing relationship. In 11 months we were married. She married a homeless guy, so that in itself,
that's a story.
It wasn't like she showed up at the Salvation Army looking for a husband. So anyway, long story short, we ended up taking off on this amazing ride that God had put us on. And one day she came to me with this revelation that she had believed that that we would one day open a cafe, and it would be a vegetarian cafe with more of an emphasis on plant-based. And I kind of chuckled because, like you, Ian, I was a meat eater. I've been a carnivore my whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I grew up as a bodybuilder. I was a competitive bodybuilder when I was younger, so I needed protein. I needed to have meat. I needed dairy. I needed to eat eggs, all the things that we do.
Yep.
And so I was going to continue on that. Well, she came to me with this vision. Well, the vision started to come to fruition, and we started to build this Revelation Cafe. Okay. So in 2018.
Before you were vegan?
Completely. I'm not vegan at all.
Wow.
Not at all. No, we're building this vegan cafe, and I'm not on board at all. I told her I'm not going to be on board with this thing. I said I'll support you, but I'm not on board. So we start building this cafe, and literally we're about, I'd say, 4 months into the build. And I'm at the gym working out one day. In the middle of my workout, I grabbed my chest. I started having horrible chest pains. So as I grabbed my chest, having these horrible chest pains, I started to notice they were getting worse. As I tried to train, they were getting more and more severe. And finally, I just got to that place where I couldn't hardly breathe, and I looked at my wife, and I kind of motioned to her. I said, I'm done. She goes, you're done working out? I said, no. I said, I'm done. And she looked at me. She knew I was having a heart attack.
Really? In the gym?
In the gym. Ooh. Talk about an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So she gets me from the LA Fitness we were working at, and literally across, like, catty corner was the St. Joe's North Hospital. She was able to get me there within about a 4-minute time frame, and they were able to stop the heart attack. Sure. So they basically got me stable, and then the next morning they said, they went in and they did a CAT on me, a cardiac catheterization, and they said my heart was in absolute horrible condition. They said that I had over 80% blockage in my left coronary artery, which is the widowmaker. So I was having a widowmaker heart attack. And then my right coronary was just as bad, and then all the supporting arteries in my heart were equally jacked up. They were so full of plaque, it was terrible.
How many people, what percentage of people even survived that heart attack?
Not many. The widowmakers is a tough one to survive.
I'm sure it's named that for a reason.
Flow. Yeah, exactly.
No doubt.
So the long story short in all of this is that at that point in time, the doctor says you're going to have to make some changes. And I'm thinking, well, what changes do I make? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I work out,
Sure.
And a brother in Christ hands me a book. It's called Reverse and Prevent Heart Disease by a guy named Dr. Esselstyn.
Okay.
So I started reading this book, and it was all about eating plant-based. While we're building a plant-based restaurant.
That's amazing.
So, I don't believe God gave me a heart attack, but I believe he allowed me to have one to wake me up.
Sure.
And so that's when my journey began, eating plant-based. So it was about the fall of 2018, it was September 2nd of 2018, I had my heart attack.
See, that's not that long ago, brother. First of all, you look fantastic, okay?
Thank you.
How old are you, if I may ask?
I'll be 61 in July.
Good for you. God bless.
So
no doubt.
thank you, man. So I'm grateful to be alive, and so basically I ended up having this new spring in my step, and like you, I started to eat this way, even though I reluctantly didn't want to.
Correct.
But I knew that if I was going to correct the damage that I had done to my heart, I needed to try something. So I started off on this plant-based journey, and I started eating plant-based. And number one thing I found out is you can actually eat plant-based and it tastes good. I was like shocked.
It's amazing, yes. I'm
shocked.
I'm shocked too a little bit, yeah.
So I started doing that, and then the next thing I know, I had to go to my 3-month follow-up with my cardiologist, and he looked at my test results. He goes, "What are you doing, man?" He says, "Whatever you're doing, don't stop."
Really?
And I said, "Well, doc, I'm eating a plant-based diet." He goes, "Well, you've dropped your cholesterol over 100 points in 3 months."
Wow.
So I'm like, maybe I'm onto something.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's funny because this book I'm reading and all of that, literally 2 weeks before we open, I get a shout out from a friend of mine who ends up saying, "Hey, I see you're opening a plant-based box in Lutz." He goes, "Maybe you saw my film Forks Over Knives or Plant Pure Nation."
I watched that, yeah.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
And Dr. Esselstyn, I wrote him back, I said, "Well, I'm reading the Esselstyn book right now." And so, long story short, it ended up being one of my friends from high school that I'd lost touch with.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was into that, so it's almost like it was fate that you ended up doing this. And listen, I don't know why I'm here. I really don't. I don't know why I'm sitting here with you, but I really do believe in karma and fate and all those kind of things like that. So, once again, my story isn't as extreme, but I hope it's gonna have a beautiful ending like yours. You know what I'm saying? So what did going plant-based do for you immediately? You said you were somebody who worked out quite a bit, but you had more of a keto lifestyle. So when you had the heart attack and you turned to plant-based to a plant-based diet, what did it do to you mentally, physically, and how much did it better you?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because it actually, first of all, eating a plant-based diet gave me mental clarity. I started to really get, and I slept better. I was sleeping better. I wasn't having, I would have periods of acid reflux.
Okay.
All the acid reflux went away completely. Gone.
Yeah.
I dropped about 30 pounds, and I've been able to maintain, I call it homeostasis. And so I've been at this place now where I don't gain weight. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Another thing I started doing, Ian, and maybe this is something I'll throw at you, is I started doing what they call intermittent fasting.
I've really been into that too, and I really want to get into that. So do you do that every single day?
I do. What I do is that my last meal at night, or the last piece of morsel I put in my mouth, I wait at least 13 minimum to a maximum of about 16 hours before I eat my next meal. So, yeah, if I eat at 6 o'clock at night, my next meal isn't until at least 7 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes as much as 10 o'clock. So I go sometimes 16 hours before.
Yeah, and so you found that did a great job for you losing weight?
Absolutely, and with being plant-based, it just seemed that my body was able to really become, as I said, homeostatic, where I feel really balanced. The next thing it did is I felt my immediate change in my cardio and my cardiovascular. I started to be able to run further, less winded, way more energy. And another thing, that it's a topic a lot of people don't want to talk about, but is blood flow. Meat and dairy slow your blood flow down. And they even did a study. There was a movie out called The Game Changers, and they even did a study with some college athletes, and they showed that there was a way to test their blood flow. And when they ate meat and did the test, their blood flow is extremely way low. And then as soon as they ate plant-based for a few days, did their blood flow test, extremely all the way the other direction.
Doesn't it make sense though?
It does.
You got to figure blood flow, meat and fats and stuff. It's probably coagulating your blood and slowing it down. It just
Absolutely.
makes sense. With the plant-based, I just feel like you flow better.
Absolutely.
You just flow better. So, so you've been plant-based for 5 years now?
It's about 3.5.
3.5 years,
Yeah.
okay. So, and you've lived in the Tampa Bay area the whole time?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've been here since 1990. I'm not leaving. I love this area. But in the last year, it's amazing how many plant-based restaurants have popped up. And listen, I wasn't plant-based last year, so it was no reason for me to look for them. Just since I've become plant-based in December, just since December, a dozen of them have popped up in the South Tampa area. Is that happening everywhere in the Tampa Bay area? Because I know you're over there, the Revelations over there in Lutz.
Right.
Is there any other plant-based restaurants in that area?
There's a couple that are starting to evolve, and there's a lot more, as you know. The mainstream restaurants have recognized that there's now a need.
You have to
have a plant-based type
Absolutely.
alternative, because let's face it, there's a lot of families that are still not going to give up meat and dairy,
Correct.
and they want to go to a restaurant they like. So when they go, they're going to want to have a plant. If they got somebody who's is a vegan or a plant-based person. They now have options at some of these newer restaurants. And realistically, if you look at just in the last, as you said, couple of years, it started really about 10 years ago with Forks Over Knives. That's what launched it. And what happens is the science just doesn't lie.
Correct.
And the more you eat a plant-based diet, and we don't talk about shaming anyone. We're telling people, listen, if you can do an 80-20 rule, cut back and do 20% meat and dairy and 80% plants, you're going to see a significant change in your health. You'll reverse diabetes. You'll see your cholesterol levels drop. You'll certainly reverse your cardiovascular disease. And that's what I wanted to tell you. Is the last time I went to my cardiologist was about 3 months ago. And I had a nuclear stress test, so they shot dye into me. They got me up and they shot pictures of my heart. They put me on the treadmill. So it was a nuclear stress test, and they've told me I've completely reversed my coronary artery disease.
Unbelievable, just by diet.
By diet.
And I really do believe this, okay? And owning a Dignitary Tea in Kava Bar, we have a lot of holistic type people come in here that are not about pills, okay? It's plant pills. That's what we're all about. And it's amazing what your diet can do. It really is. I mean, there's so many people in here. We have a lot of success stories here. We have a lot of people that have lost 100 and some pounds. There's a lot of people that are former addicts and opioid addictions and stuff like that. And a lot of people, well, you're hitting you're all of them. You're all the above. But it's amazing when you change your diet and change your ways, how you can change everything in the world. And that's what I'm trying to get to people. Like right away, your doctor, I just went to, you've heard of lifeguard imaging?
I have, yes.
Lifeguard imaging, Martin Gramatica, a former Buccaneer. He said to me, I want you to go do this imaging thing. Everybody should do it. I go, what is it? So he told me what it is. I went and did the lifeguard imaging. My number was 8, which was good. It's 0 to 10 is good. 0 is perfect, obviously.
Right.
But I'm still doing pretty darn good. 0 to 8 is all good. They said I had a guy come in there the other day, it was 4,500. And he was in surgery the next day. And they said if he hadn't gone in there, he'd have been dead in 2 days. So what I'm telling everybody out there, if you're my age or, it doesn't really matter what age you are, go get checked to the doctor. And then after that, figure out what you're going to do after that. But you still have to figure out what's wrong with you if you're going to do, if you're going to do natural healing and stuff like that. So let's talk about diet and your diet, because I'm vegan now, but I'm still learning every day, okay?
Right.
And I didn't initially start to be the vegan thing to lose weight, but I still would like that to be one of my goals. And I've lost some weight, but I still want to start, take it to another level, because, I feel good, but you can still always look better and feel better. If I would say to you, how can I change my diet? Because right now I'm just not eating meat, but that's it. There's no really other guidance and there's no parameters. If somebody came into your restaurant and said, I'm vegan, give me a plan to lose weight, because you guys have you have preset meals. What would be a good thing for me to drop maybe a few pounds being vegan, and give me like a schedule or something like that?
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head there, Ian. There's our executive chef, her name is Lori Martin, and she's in the documentary that has been filmed. Also, Dr. Colin Campbell, who wrote a book called The China Study. So a lot of people, if you really want to see the scientific, it's that thick. It's really a thick book. And it basically covers all the basis of all the areas where people eat a plant-based diet and they don't have cancer.
Correct.
They don't have diabetes.
Correct.
They're not overweight, right? So there's a reason for that. There's
Sure.
correlation.
Sure.
So the best thing that I can tell you, because vegans can eat Oreos until they're blue.
Correct.
Oreos are vegan.
But that's a problem.
Well, of course it is.
It's a problem.
And that's, so to combat that, that's a treat.
Okay.
So if we're eating, and I'm going to use an 80-20 rule with the plant-based diet. So on an 80-20 rule, if you're eating 80 whole food plant-based, no oils, which is what we do in some of the meals that we manufacture at the cafe, the Plant Craver meals, they're basically whole food. Well, they're not basically, they are whole food, plant-based, no oil. So they're made from whole foods. There's no added oil, so there's no added saturated fats to these meals. So those are automatically, and they're also portioned. They're 12 ounce and 16 ounce. So if you're eating a few of those a day, now you've controlled your caloric intake. And you're not getting all the extra saturated fat. So that's a basic start. And then the burgers, the omelets. You remember I made you a Greek omelet this morning, right?
You made me a Greek omelet this morning.
Right.
And I mean, I love eggs and I love omelets. And I almost had to ask you a few times, is this not real? Because I'd be honest with you, it was better than a real omelet. It tasted amazing. And that's the kind of thing people think they're going to lose out on something. But if you could slide something to somebody and they don't know, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like people complain about nothing, it seems like. Now, what about water intake and all the kind of things like that? I mean, you get your water in, all that's very important.
Absolutely. You know, obviously being hydrated is a very important thing. It also helps to filter the body out. Again, man, I'm going to tell you that, you know, I don't do it perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know there's no meat or dairy in my diet at all. And I don't miss it anymore. And this is I'm a guy that used to eat cheese on a regular basis.
I love cheese, brother. I love cheese.
Me too. And now that Greek omelet I made today, that was a vegan feta cheese. And I don't feel like when I eat that I'm sacrificing anything at all. So that's the beautiful part about, you know, eating plant-based today and being vegan is that you don't have to sacrifice like they did 10, 12 years ago. All these new products have come out. You've got Beyond Burgers, you've got Impossible Burgers. As you know, we do it's called POW Shreds, which stands for People in Our World. The acronym stands for, you know, a really good cause. And it's soy isolate, water, and salt. It's compressed. It ends up being like a chicken substitute. So we've got chicken nuggets that are not. They're made from soy and breading, and people think they're eating real chicken nuggets. There's no end to where I think the plant-based lifestyle can go, and just simply cutting out meat and dairy in your diet will make a tremendous difference in your health.
And it has to me already. And you know, what advice would you give to somebody? Because I can cook now. I can cook anything. Like literally, but I'm just not used to cooking vegan food. I mean, how do I get into that? Like you see, I have my big green eggs out here, but they usually had big fat steaks and like pork butts on them. You know, I would have the vegetables on the side, but I'm just not figuring out for me to cook on a consistent basis. Maybe that's not important. Maybe it's not important.
Well, you know, it's funny because you can have a barbecue grill and you can cook up a mean veggie burger. And you know, you can use the vegan cheeses and saute, like we do the sauteed mushrooms and onions on our burger. You gotta have a burger, man. The burgers are amazing. They're off the chain. They're so good.
I don't think I've had your burger yet.
You haven't.
And I love me a good vegan burger.
I'm telling you, I promise. I challenge anyone to come and eat one of our veggie burgers. And tell me they're not eating a real thing.
So is it a veggie burger? Is it a Beyond Burger? Is it Impossible? Or is it?
It is. It's either or.
So, but you have all of them, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you have veggie, Beyond, and Impossible?
No, we don't do any veggie burgers. Some people do a black bean burger and things like that. We don't do that. We do the Beyond and the Impossible. And what's ironic is that one day I thought this up, and I want to cook it for you. I want to make it for you. It's called the Beyond Impossible Burger. So it's a patty of each.
Oh, really?
So it's a double decker.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and we put the cheese and we melt that with the sauteed mushrooms and onions in the middle. Comes with lettuce, tomato, and a pickle.
Wonderful. So where does veganism go from here? I mean, it's grown exponentially the last 2 years even. I mean, I see it rising straight up. Is it just because I just became vegan, or you could tell me you've been vegan longer than I? It just seems like it's getting ramped up all of a sudden right now.
Yeah, you know what the old adage is, right? If there's something really good and someone tells someone and someone tells someone else and then they tell two and then so on and so on. So what's happened is the secret's out.
The secret's out.
And I have a confession to make. I had a friend of mine that's been vegan now for probably 30 years. And you know, I'd go visit him in California and I'd go out there and see him, and he was in acting and things like that, and he was living the vegan lifestyle, and he'd take me to a vegan place, and I'd be like laughing at him, and make fun of him. I made fun of him right up to when I had my heart attack and turned vegan.
Yeah, right.
So I had to call him on the phone, and I had to eat crow. I had to give him a verbal apology.
Good for you.
And let him know that, listen, man, you were right. I was wrong. I wish I would have known what you know. And he's got a clean bill of health. He's 60. He's going to be 62 in June.
Sure.
And this guy is rock solid and
that's it.
Healthy, very healthy.
It's amazing, and once again, I'm in my 50s. You say you just turned 60 not too long ago. But this is the thing: if you're 30 or 20 or 15, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
This health is health, and I don't care how old you are. If you don't have your health, you're screwed. Okay, without your health, you went through not being healthy. Doesn't matter how much money you have, you're not healthy. The health is the most important thing.
Amen.
And as we get older, we're realizing that, right?
Absolutely. And just like you, we want to encourage the youth of today to not, bury their heads in the sands and do what the culture says.
Correct,
Try something different. Go outside the box. Look at a different way. I've had an opportunity, only by the grace of God, to discover my faith and to know that, there's a better way for me to live.
Sure. And
a better way to treat others and to love others. And you can't do anything better for yourself than to actually take care of the temple.
Sure.
Because this was a gift that was given to us. Every breath that we breathe is a gift. It's life.
That's a fact.
And why not honor that by taking care of it?
Yeah.
And there's Jesus hung out with some crazy guys. They were fishing with a bunch of guys that were drinking there. A lot of those guys were a little over the edge.
Yeah.
But their name became disciple. And the root word of disciple is discipline. And that's part of something about being from your professional background.
Yeah.
If you're not disciplined and you're not training, you're not doing the reps, right?
Yeah.
And that's all I try to encourage people to do, is to start making a regimen, make a plan, and stay disciplined to it. And I promise you will not regret it. I promise.
Yeah. You have to gain from it, and
absolutely.
And I'm becoming more disciplined in a lot of different ways in my life, and I'm still not nearly as disciplined as I want to be. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But as I sit here and I talk to different people every week, I feed off of it.
Yeah.
And I want to have more of a regimen. Like, I want to sit down and say, this is how I eat. But you have to crawl before you walk.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So me becoming vegan was a huge. When I mean huge, it was a huge leap for me. So some people still ask me every day, "You're not still vegan, are you?" And I said, "Hey guys, this is not something. It's not a fad for me. It's a change of lifestyle.
Exactly.
When you started, you knew that it wasn't a change of lifestyle. It was something that you had to do. So you already started building this vegan restaurant. So after you had this massive heart attack, the doctor didn't really push you into it, really.
No. It's funny because my doctor, Dr. Kamari, love him, beautiful man, and he saved my life.
Sure.
He's the guy that did the procedure.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't open my vessels up,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And what's funny is because he actually saw the benefit of what I was doing, and he had just had children, and he was a little bit on the bigger side.
Sure.
And he came in the restaurant, I would say a couple months ago, and he looked amazing. And so I said, he came in and he ate totally vegan. And I said, "Hey Doc, man," I said, "you look great, man. What are you doing?" He goes, "Robbie," he says, "if I'm gonna walk the walk, I gotta talk the talk."
No way, he turned vegan?
He started, I don't know, but I know he's definitely at least the 80-20 rule. I know he trimmed down, and he said, because he's actually in the documentary, and he basically talks about my health issue and how I had to make changes. He says, and most people don't change, but I did.
Sure, yeah.
And so he recognized what the changes were in me, and as a cardiologist, he started making some of those changes himself.
So you're vegan. You're not 80. So if you're 80-20, you still consider yourself vegan?
Nope.
No.
I'm 100% vegan. I'm 100% all in plant-based.
Well, I have been too for 3.5 months. Like I said to people before, I don't know where it's going to take me, but like for me, if I was to introduce something, it would be fish.
Right.
Now, is you frown upon that? I mean,
no. I will say that when I've had moments of weakness and I have cheated, I go straight to sushi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in the fish business before.
Sure.
And Jesus, he hung out with a bunch of fishermen
There
and
you
fed
go.
them fish.
There
So
you go.
if that's my weakness, that's about the only one. But I haven't had a piece of fish even in. It's been 6 months. 6 months to a year. Yeah.
Really? And you don't crave it?
No, man. Right now, vegan sushi is another hot commodity.
Vegan sushi.
Yep. You can actually go to like a Greenwise or Publix, and they do it's a veggie roll. It's got avocado, cucumber, and carrots,
Beautiful.
and they roll it in some nori with the rice. Absolutely delicious.
Unbelievable. Well, I tell you what, I didn't just bring you here for your good looks. You're a good-looking man, but your restaurant is fantastic. It really
Please
is.
stop, Ian.
Well, I'm not in Lutz too often. I'm there once a week, but I do stop by Revelations once a week, and your food is fantastic. I haven't seen any other restaurant that even have omelets. I mean, nobody else is selling omelets in this whole town, it seems like, vegan-wise anyways. So you want to be the innovator, right?
I would love to think that we are, but it's just got to that point where, because of the ingredients that are now available, the Just Eggs is what we use. And I've gotten to the point where they're pretty versatile, and I've learned how to use them well, and I've taught my staff the same. So, when we have regular omelets, we have vegetarian meals, we have regular omelets on the menu, but I let everyone who's plant-based know you don't have to eat a regular omelet. If you want it plant-based, we'll switch it out with the Just Eggs.
Beautiful.
And like you said, most of the time they're like, I even try it with people who eat eggs.
Okay.
And when they eat the plant-based omelet, a lot of times they go, man, this is better than real eggs.
Well, I had it today, and I actually think I may have ordered the real omelet one time at your place.
It's possible.
It's possible. And I go, this tastes like real eggs. It might have been real eggs, I'm not sure. But today definitely was just eggs. And there was no difference. There really was. Actually, I'm not sure this one didn't taste better. You know?
I think it does, because I'm an old guy that I ate eggs my whole life.
I ate the hell out of some eggs.
Yep.
Like I would eat a dozen eggs back in the day. Dozen eggs, cheese, the whole 9 yards. Those were, I would say, the good old days, but those weren't the good old days, because it takes a long time to wear that off. 12 eggs and cheese and all that kind of stuff like that. You know what I mean?
And I'll tell people, I'll make a promise too, if you start an exercise regimen along with your plant-based eating, you absolutely will notice a tremendous difference in your ability to train.
Good stuff. Well, Robby, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you hanging out.
No,
it's good anytime. And listen, I like to get people hip to great food, good people, and people doing wonderful things in the community, and you check all those boxes.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Revelations is in Lutz. It's at 17808 Northdale Mabry. I'm usually there Wednesday morning, so if you see me, come and say hi. Otherwise, everybody have a wonderful week. This is Plant Power Podcast. Everybody be cool. Peace out, everybody.